Miss Terri Clappsaddle, and I'm a registered dietitian and a certified. They changed the title a little bit. I'm just going to say certified diabetes educator, and I work here at Caldwell Nutrition and Diabetes Health. And I know some of you folks that are on there, so it's good to see some familiar faces. Part of what our interns from Appalachian State have to do is some community programs. So what I'm going to do today is let our dietetic intern, she's a master's level intern. Her name is Rachel Giardo. I always say it wrong. And she is just so good at what she does. She's also got a background in exercise, nutrition and exercise. So she's really got a lot of experience. She's also, I don't think she'll mind me sharing, has type 1 diabetes. So she's with this disease every day. We will probably focus more on type 2 today, just some general and then some nutrition. And we're going to give you some links and information to do more exploring in the future. But I'm so happy to have Rachel here. She does such a good job, and I think you're going to enjoy her. If there's anything else you want to let us know about yourself, you can. But I'm going to let her take the floor, and we may kind of double team you today. So,
all right. Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm wearing my black and gold today. The part of my background, I work with the wrestling team at Appalachian State. We're having our national tournament this weekend, so March Madness all the way around, basketball, wrestling. I do have a background in sports and performance nutrition. So I've worked with AppFuel, that is the performance nutrition department within the athletic department at Appalachian State. Done a lot with football, wrestling, baseball, cheerleading, tennis, soccer, you name it. I've done it, track, and also been very awesome to also get to work with athletes with chronic illnesses. Ultimately, that's something I'd like to do one day. Being a former athlete who has a chronic illness, this is something very important to me. But also, working with community members, I really enjoy educating. I think it's very fun. My mom's a teacher, so I'm very, I'm kind of like predisposed to want to teach, I guess. And I kind of want, and I do want to interact with y'all today, since this is being recorded. As April was saying earlier, if y'all want to like interact through the chat, or if you unmute yourselves to interact, or I think you can raise your hand is an option. So we're going to also interact. And I know it's been kind of gross weather lately, kind of looking gloomy outside. We're going to brighten up our morning with some good fellowship. All right. So we're going to talk about nutrition and diabetes. Oh, also, I've had diabetes for 20 years. No, yes, 20 years. December made 20 years. That type 1 diabetes. I do wear an insulin pump and a continuous blood glucose monitor. Now, again, I know most people in this group probably have type 2 diabetes. I've seen some type 2 diabetics wear an insulin pump. I'm not saying you have to wear one, because some type 2 diabetics also can manage their diabetes without the use of insulin or other medications. That's something I'll touch on in the lesson, but a little bit about me with that, a lot of experience with using a lot of these methods and applying these to my life as well. All right, so got some questions, again, some interactive stuff. If y'all want to answer, you want to hop in, you can. So what is diabetes? If anybody wants to tell me what diabetes is or what you define diabetes as.
If you guys don't know where the mute is, you can go to the bottom left-hand corner of your screen and unmute if you want to answer. And even though we're recording, you can feel free to chime in.
All right.
Much sugar, not enough insulin.
All right. Yeah, the body doesn't produce enough insulin. Also, you can press your space bar to unmute yourself, and then when you let go of the space bar, you mute yourself back. Insulin resistant diabetes. Yes, I will explain that. So type 2 diabetes in particular is a chronic illness in which the body prevents insulin made in the body from working properly. And the body may make some insulin, but not enough. In another term, so Ms. Mary L, you said, insulin resistance. So essentially, I'm a big nerd. I'm a massive nerd. If I'm getting too sciencey, please let me know, and I'll try to, I'll try to make it easier to understand. So physiologically, that means what happens to our bodies on the cellular level. So like on our, the pieces that make the building blocks of our bodies. Physiologically, type 2 diabetes, it is, wow, sorry, I also have really terrible ADD. It's like, boom, my train, when it leaves the station, it's a bullet. Anyway, sorry. So, for example, you eat a lot of carbohydrates or consume excess sugars, then your body will have what's called a blood sugar spike, which causes your pancreas, that's the organ that produces insulin, to go, okay, we need to send more insulin out. Well, so after, your body gets so much insulin, the insulin will go to the blood cells and will take the sugar from the blood cells to lower your blood sugar. But where does it go? Because it can't just go poof and disappear. So that sugar can either be excreted through your urine, and it is also taken to your storage areas of your body. Those two spots are in your muscles. So that's called muscle glycogen. And that's what makes you, that gives your muscles the energy to, fire off and make movements. It's that quick, very fast releasing sugar. If it doesn't make sense, I can re-explain it better. And then in your liver, that is where your long-term glycogen is stored. And so I think of it as, you have a sheet of aluminum foil, you can have a huge sheet of aluminum foil, but when you crush it up into a ball, you can kind of crush it up super dense on itself, and it's super packed in on itself. So that's how our liver glycogen is stored. They're super branch chained, which means all these sugars are really, packed in tight, and they are harder for your body to release. So after your body takes that sugar to your muscles and to your liver, it's like, all right, where do we go next? So it goes to your fat cells. And so that's why type 2 diabetics, obesity is a risk factor, or being overweight is a risk factor for type 2 diabetes. Well, so after some time, your body will need more and more insulin to properly respond to those blood sugar spikes. And so there are studies that show having, a higher lean body mass or higher muscle mass in comparison to your fat mass, or, again, your fat cells. There are studies that show that insulin resistance improves or goes down as lean body mass increases, which is why exercise is very important in management of type 2 diabetes. So did that answer your question? Does anybody have any questions about that, or anything I can explain better?
I typed a question in the chat you might want to answer.
Okay, let me check it for you. All right, but so again, you have the insulin resistance. So that just means your body requires more than it would have if you didn't, or if your body were responding normally to the insulin your body produces. So that's why there are oral medications that improve your body's response to your own insulin, or some medications that increase or that can promote insulin secretion from your pancreas. And then there's also, again, you can take insulin injections, or there's, I think, Jardiance, Trulicity, all those kinds of medications can also not necessarily work as insulin, but they do kind of help your body absorb that better and use what you have better. Does that help, Ms. Mary?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. All right, so got what is diabetes, but how's it diagnosed? So it can be diagnosed by your A1C, so that's your average blood sugar levels over 2 to 3 months. Your fasting blood glucose, so fasting blood sugar levels, a random blood sugar test or an oral glucose tolerance test. I know this is used a lot with gestation or in pregnancy, and I've never had an oral glucose tolerance test. I hope I never have to have one. I've heard they're really terrible. It's a lot of, just you drink that thick, I think orange syrup or some kind of orange liquid is. All right, and so some risk factors for developing type 2 diabetes, being over 45 years old, if you have a family history, if you belong to a high-risk ethnic group, for example, people of color, so Black, Hispanic, Latino, Asian populations, which I don't know if anyone else is a member of these races or ethnicities. I am half Mexican, but it's interesting that I don't really have a family history of diabetes on either side of my family. My mom is Caucasian, so it's just kind of, type 1 is very random. So it's, anyway, that's a different science talk. All right, and so also you have a history of heart disease, if you have a history of gestational diabetes or diabetes during pregnancy, PCOS, that's polycystic ovarian syndrome. That is an issue that some women can deal with their reproductive organs. If you are overweight or obese, if you're not very physically active, if you have very high blood pressure, low levels of HDL, so that's your good cholesterol, and if you have high levels of fat in your blood, so again, your triglycerides or your total cholesterol or your LDL, your low density lipoproteins, aka your bad cholesterol, that can also kind of contribute to insulin resistance. And so some signs and symptoms of diabetes. So what are some signs and symptoms that some of you may have experienced before you were diagnosed with diabetes? Oh, and also you can like raise your hand, or you can just give me a type of 1 in the chat, or give me a thumbs up if you do have diabetes. And if not, or if you have had it, or if you have a family member who has it, just let me know in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and just tell us where we're all at with in this group, because I understand that not everyone is diabetic.
Does it ever go away?
Not necessarily go away, but I'm going to share with y'all some tips to manage it so that you can, have better blood sugar levels, have a better A1C. And, some people may believe that once you start insulin, you never have to, or you always have to take it. But again, some tips I'm going to share with y'all are some ways that you can, either wean off some of your medications. Also, with the doctor's permission, you need to talk to your doctor about all of these. And sometimes some people have been able to come off of those treatments altogether. But you still have to monitor your blood sugar levels. You still have to, you can't just wake up and go, oh, I don't have diabetes anymore. Guess I'm gonna do what I want. So it requires some discipline. It requires strict like monitoring and keeping yourself in check. Yes, Ms. Terri.
Yeah. One thing, the only cure I know of is if you need a gastric bypass and you've had a gastric bypass, then that is like the one so-called cure, but there is no cure for diabetes other than what they've seen in those patients. It's like Rachel has said, it's more about control, because the worst diabetes is just the uncontrolled diabetes. There's no better or worse, we don't classify them as good and bad. It's just, if it's controlled, that's a good thing. But gastric bypass can cure diabetes, but it's kind of like being a little bit pregnant. Either you're pregnant or you're not. So either you have diabetes or you don't have diabetes. But fortunately, there's a lot you can do about that. And that's what Rachel's going to talk about in a few minutes.
All right, as you said, I have a family member who had no symptoms. They just were discovered in routine lab work. That is how a lot of people that I've come in contact with recently, they have noticed. But there's some signs and symptoms include urinating often, so you have to use the restroom a lot. Maybe your vision's gotten blurry. You feel very hungry, you're very thirsty, you're tired, you're fatigued. You have cuts or bruises that are really slow to heal on your body. And then you may experience tingling, pain, or numbness in the hands or feet. So essentially that's called neuropathy. And that's where, uncontrolled blood sugar levels can cause nerve damage in your hands, your feet. And that's also what leads to amputations, which I'm not trying to scare anyone into and say, oh, we have diabetes, you're gonna lose your foot. No. Again, this is why management is so important, that we take care of ourselves, because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Yes?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, earlier, my mom and I, we always, well, also growing up in a bilingual household, my family, we get our sayings switched up. So like one funny mannerism in Spanish and one in English, like they're totally not the same. We get those mixed up. So it's, my brain speaks two different languages. All right. And so any signs and symptoms of high or low blood sugar, maybe what's something that you've experienced before, or that maybe a family member's experienced, or what you may or may not know about high or low blood sugar.
I was diagnosed at, I think I was 19 years old with low blood sugar, and they said that would turn into diabetes down the road. I do have two older siblings with diabetes, and we grew up around the Potawatomi Indians, and they used something. It was a small handful of walnuts they ate before they went to bed. And my oldest brother started doing that, and all of a sudden his sugar went down and he went off insulin. The doctor was amazed. I don't know what it is. I mean, why it is, but that's what the Potawatomis did. So it was interesting.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of that would aid in blood sugar, or like your blood sugar getting better, maybe, I don't know, the fat or the protein in walnuts, but I don't know, because honestly, there are some things that may work for some people or some populations, and it's like, oh yeah, that works, but it's not always a solution for everyone, and that's why there's so many different things we can do, and not just for diabetes, other health conditions. It's not a one size fits all, very blanketed, hey, if you do all these, your life will be perfect, because I've had to explain that to people that I'm in school with. We can follow the guidelines all day long. We can, do everything by the book all day long. But at the end of the day, we all have different bodies. Our bodies all respond differently to stress, to weather, to activities we are living, how active we are, the amount of sleep we get and the quality of sleep we get. And even, geographically where we live. I would, branching off of where we live, I think it'd be interesting to notice, health trends of different generations, in different areas of North Carolina that have been affected by, natural disaster, or, for example, you may remember in Piedmont, North Carolina, there was a coal ash spill recently, and so that's around my hometown. And so I think it'll be very interesting to see like the incidences of cancers or children born with birth defects or things like that as a result of things like that. So there's a lot of factors that go into diabetes. And again, we are all snowflakes. We are very individual. We are very different. We all require different things, which is why I'm gonna also give you the management stuff next. Okay, so some symptoms of high blood sugar: you may be very thirsty, you may experience blurred vision, you may have to go to the restroom more, urinate more, you could get very irritable, cranky, possibly feel dehydrated, so your skin feels dry, your mouth, your lips can feel dry. And then with low blood sugar, and I hate having low blood sugar. That makes me significantly angrier. I sweat. I get very panicked. I get very anxious, and I'm so hungry, and I have to just eat. I get very panicked. So those are some symptoms. Or if you feel kind of weak or shaky, and even if like you haven't eaten in a while, that can also be a symptom of low blood sugar. All right, and so our management of diabetes, I have the ABCs. All right, and so we have our A1C, our blood pressure, and our cholesterol. So A1C, we should keep our blood sugar levels controlled, and that results in better A1Cs. So again, that's your long-term percentage of what your blood sugars are over a period of time. So it should be like around 7.5 as well. Is that 7 to 7?
Your age.
Yeah, depending on your age, because as we age, that's another factor that contributes to our health status. So like 7.5, just depends on how old you are. Blood pressure. So poor blood sugar control can result in a high blood pressure. So keeping your blood sugar levels controlled aids in the blood pressure control. So some ways to control your blood pressure, staying active and being able to move. That helps bring down your resting blood pressure significantly. Also, again, having good blood sugars. So it's kind of it is a feedback loop. So if you exercise, it makes your blood pressures better, which makes your blood sugars better, but also exercise helps your blood sugars. So it all works together. And then cholesterol. So uncontrolled blood sugars can put you at a higher risk for having high cholesterol. So that's, again, fat in your blood, and it can cause insulin resistance, and it can put you at risk for atherosclerosis and blood vessel diseases. So heart disease, cardiovascular issues. Again, another reason why physical activity is very important, so we can keep our heart nice and strong, so we can keep our blood pumping and moving and grooving through there. And that just overall helps a lot. I know, again, it sounds too simple to just fix all of that, but it really helps a lot. And so healthy eating, can somebody tell me what their definition of healthy eating is? And you can, Ms. Martha, did I answer that question about experiencing high and low blood sugar? Did I answer that for you, Ms. Martha?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. All right, and so healthy eating, anybody can pop in, you can say on the chat, I need to look at that more, or you can hit your space bar and let me know what you think healthy eating looks like.
I will join in here. I think it consists of half of your plate of fruits and vegetables, and a fourth of it protein, and a fourth of it carbohydrates.
All right, yes, ma'am. That's exactly what I was about to say. All right, so healthy eating can look different for different people. Yes, B, eating mostly fruits and veggies and from major food groups. Let's see, Miss Ingrid. Oh, come on now. Again, healthy. Listen, I don't want to tell y'all what I eat because I'm eating stress grad school college kid food, and I have not been. Anyway,
Ingrid asked you what you
yes.
ate.
No, it says I don't eat healthy like I should, but healthy eating is a balanced meal, normal portion sizes, staying away from sugar and things we can't pronounce in the ingredients. All right, I like that. I like that definition. It's nice. So again, healthy eating can mean different things for different people, depending if you are plant-based. So if you prefer not to consume animal products, or maybe you're vegetarian, or you do eat red meat or you don't eat red meat, how active you are, it's different for a lot of people. But healthful plate for a diabetic, and I'm gonna have a little visual I'll show you, is like Ms. Reba said, half of your plate of non-starchy vegetables. So I like to say, taste the rainbow, but not Skittles. And so I've got this cute little, if everyone can see that okay. So half of our plate would be these non-starchy vegetables. So that's like peppers, onions, tomatoes, zucchini, eggplant, spinach, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, Those are really awesome vegetables that don't have a lot of carbohydrate, but they have a lot of fiber. And I will talk about fiber more in a second. I love fiber. Oh, beets. What would you say, Miss Terry? Beets, like
Beets are-
pickled beets. I would not definitely have more sugar, but like regular cooked beets.
Yeah, your beets and your turnips would be more of a non-starchy vegetable. So
Mhm.
that's what I would say for that. So unless it's pickled, you're correct.
Yeah, pickled
because
beets is a lot of sugar.
Yeah, you have to check the carbohydrates on the food label for a pickled
Yes.
beet, or if you made them be, you can make them with Splenda and stevia too, if you pickle at home, so.
And then Ms. Martha said, is gluten-free diet healthy for a person living with diabetes? I think it could have some benefits. However, you know, if you don't have celiac, which is, you know, an allergy to gluten, I think portion control and, you know, counting your carb choices is going to be more beneficial than if you were to just cut out gluten. It's very restrictive. It's cutting out a lot of different food groups. And personally, I do not like gluten-free foods. I have a friend who's gluten-free, she's celiac, and I will eat with her sometimes in solidarity to make her not feel so alone. But yeah, and sometimes those items have more fat, which can also contribute to insulin resistance. So again, just depends on what works for you. If you like that, and that helps you with your blood sugar management, great. But as far as evidence, like supporting that a gluten-free diet is going to really help your blood sugar, control blood sugars, I haven't seen any. And but yeah, that's my take on gluten. Does that help, Ms. Martha?
It does help. My concern is that most of the gluten-free products are made from brown rice, white rice, you know, all products like that, which would not normally be on a type 2 diabetic diet. But I didn't know if eating some of that occasionally, but what I hear you saying is go back and look at the carbohydrates.
Okay,
Count
I'm gonna move real quick. Sorry about that, Ms. Martha, because the computer is about to die. So we'll take you on a field trip real quick. But so I wouldn't say that brown rice, white rice are bad. Again, it's about portion control. It is about, thank you all for coming on this journey with me. It's about portion control. It's about also brown rice and white rice are great fiber in your diet. So it is not necessarily quote unquote bad. But again, that's why it's important to always, you know, count the carbs. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. That's why it is important to, you know, count your carbs, make sure that you are, oh, you're great, thank you. Counting your carbs is important, and just staying on top of that. So rice isn't bad. There are no quote bad or quote good foods. It's just foods that, you know, you should keep in your diet, and foods that you you know, should definitely try to monitor. Let's see. So then a quarter of your plate would be a lean protein source. So that could be poultry, so chicken, turkey, eggs, lean red meat, and fish, pork, you know, any kind of a lean cut of a meat. And then another quarter of your plate would be a starchy grain, or excuse me, a grain or starchy vegetable. So that can be sweet potatoes, brown or white rice, whole grain pasta, or even regular white pasta. So some people have maybe analogy. True.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, that's something that a doctor back home likes to teach people, and that's not always true. Also, everybody can hear me okay? Like a thumbs up, thumbs down. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Sorry for the technical difficulties. All right. And then also, you should be incorporating a serving of fruit and or low fat dairy products with a meal, and a low calorie and a low sugar drink. So whether that's water, whether that is unsweetened tea, things such as that. I just think water is great because it's usually free. All right, does anybody have any questions about that? Miss Reba, you're still muted.
Okay. Bananas, what's your feeling on bananas?
Okay, I think bananas are a great source of fiber. It's a nice quick carbohydrate. However, it's how much we eat. So if you were to eat, half of a medium banana, so it's about a 6 to 7 inch banana, that would be your one choice. Miss Terry is gonna try to grab a food model so we can show you what that looks like. But again, all about portion control. I know there's some like monster bananas at the store. If you're gonna have a larger piece of fruit, maybe eat half. So yeah, same amount of calories. So if you wanted to have an apple, about like the size of your hand, or what is this, about a 5 to 6 inch banana? It's a small banana. These are the same amount of calories. This is one carb choice, right? So yeah, 15 grams of carbs in both of these. So I think bananas are great. Now I will say this about ripeness: the more brown that they turn, that means that there are more sugars developed. So what that means is those sugars kind of hit your blood sugar faster than if you were to eat a yellow green, less ripe banana. Those sugars aren't as as bioavailable, which means ready for your body to absorb it. So your body it takes a little more time for your body to digest. Does that help you out, Ms. Reba?
I have a question I didn't understand about the green or ripe bananas. What did you say about that?
Okay, so the green, like the closer to green and yellow, not as ripe bananas, those bananas usually don't have sugars as readily available as maybe a brown banana, or one that has more spots on it. And so if you've noticed, a more yellow, a more green banana is gonna have gonna be firmer in texture, and it's not going to be as sweet in flavor, versus a banana that's got a little bit of brown spots on it. It's very mushy, it's very sweet. So that just means when your body digests it, if you have that less ripe banana, your body's going to take longer to digest those sugars, and it's going to take longer for your blood sugar to be affected, versus when you eat a riper banana, or a softer, more brown banana. Does that make sense? Awesome.
Bananas
Anybody
have
else have any
appeal.
questions? Say that again, I'm sorry.
I said bananas have appeal.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And also, limiting your alcohol consumption, sugar sweetened beverages, and drinking more water is very helpful in blood sugar management. So the standard or the recommendations for alcoholic beverages is 1 beverage a day for women and 2 for men. And again, as diabetics, we may think that they don't have much of an impact on blood sugars, but they do. There's a lot of carbohydrates in beer and wine, and then in liquor drinks. There's also chemically that can cause your blood sugars to spike and then drop very quickly. So, really just limiting that, or honestly, again, drink more water. Drink more water. And it can negatively impact your sleep. Does anybody have any questions about eating healthy?
I have another question about frequency. Was 3 meals a day okay, or should you eat more frequently?
So again, this is us all, I think depends on what works best for you. Some people prefer 3 traditional meals a day. I am a person who does like maybe 3 meals a day, but with several snacks in between. So I eat about probably 6 times a day. But I don't really eat big meals. So I kind of space my eating out more during the day. And I found that that's what helps with my blood sugar control. So if you want to do, 3 traditional meals a day and that works for your blood sugars, great. But personally, I enjoy eating more throughout the day and like spacing my meals out more. I feel that gives me better blood sugar control. But that's again, it's a personal choice. If you find that, eating on a schedule like that is going to be better on your blood sugars, or depending on, those factors, that's how, it's all depends on what works best for you.
I think anytime you go, this is Terry talking, I think anytime you go a long time between meals, maybe a good time for a snack so that you don't overeat at the next meal. So that may determine too, are your meals going to be delayed today? Or it's like Rachel has a really busy schedule too. So she might not be somebody who can sit and eat a big meal all the
Right.
time. So that may be some of you that are listening in today. So it is very individualized, but so you do have to kind of sort that out. But when you go long times without eating, you're probably going to either get a low blood sugar or you're going to overeat in the next meal. So that's when we recommend it might be good to have a snack if you know it's going to be delayed. So
Does that help, Ms. Reba?
Also talk about healthy carbohydrates. What's your healthy carbohydrate recommendations?
So I would prefer, and we generally recommend using more complex carbohydrates. Again, those have a higher fiber content. So sweet potatoes, brown rice, quinoa. Again, those kinds of vegetables, those are called complex carbs. It takes longer for them to digest, which means, they're going to impact your blood sugars differently than if you were to eat like a white potato or if you were to eat regular rice. However, again, moderation, very important. Now, if you want to eat a serving of macaroni and cheese, that's not terrible. That's not the end of the world. But, you shouldn't eat a huge heaping serving of macaroni and cheese every day. So it's, again, about finding your balance, finding the foods that work for you. And also, if you don't like how something tastes, don't eat it. For example, I will not eat cucumbers. I will not eat broccoli. I will not eat cauliflower. Those are just things I don't like. But there's plenty of other fruits and vegetables I prefer. And also, again, counting your carbs. And I think looking at the fiber content of those foods is very important. And that's very helpful in choosing a more healthy or a healthier carb. Does that help? Awesome.
You mentioned water.
Does anyone else have anything?
Yeah, you mentioned water. Is there any advantage to drinking water with like electrolytes or Gatorade as opposed to just drinking water, or disadvantages?
So this will kind of segue me into the physical activity. So, we should be getting about 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise throughout the week, which could look like a walk, jogging, cardio dance, housework, yard work. With that being said, that's why hydration is important, especially as we age. Hydration is not just drinking water, it's also the electrolytes in our body. And so those electrolytes are different minerals that help fuel our muscle contractions. So I'm sure some of you have had muscle cramps before, and that's what can contribute to muscle cramping is not necessarily that there isn't enough water in your muscles, but you don't have enough salt, potassium, magnesium, other minerals. So Gatorade, it does have a bit of sugar. I don't prefer it as much anymore. I just prefer trying to eat these sources of these electrolytes. And also depending on how much you sweat, that would determine about how much more salt you need. For example, with my athletes, I have a lot of heavy sweaters. And so we encourage them to salt their foods more. However, these are 18 to 21-year-olds or 18 to 22-year-olds. And so for this older adult group, adding salt can cause like some heart issues. And I also highly doubt, I know I do not sweat heavily now working out, or not as hard as I think, or I would like to think that I want to. But I don't know. Gatorade it's okay. Or if you were to drink a Gatorade Zero, or something with less sugar, cool. Or Propel, yeah, that does have electrolytes. But again, making sure that you are talking to your doctor about that, because if you have any heart conditions or any fluid retention issues, that is very important to talk with them about that, so you don't have any other complications. But so honestly, drinking water, it's much easier, and eating these sources of minerals is going to be significantly more helpful, I think, than if you were to just go, oh, I need a sports drink. Oh, I have to have Gatorade, because there's a lot of sugar in that as well.
Can you speak about the fake sugars like saccharin and stuff like that, how that affects diabetes?
So there's the artificial sweeteners, but there's also sugar alcohols, which can have a negative effect on your blood sugars as well. But some people may be sensitive to artificial sweeteners. I know in some people it can cause migraines. Me personally, it causes digestive issues. These are genetically, or these are just engineered to be significantly sweeter than table sugar. So if it comes down to having an unsweetened tea with Splenda or just plain water, I prefer the water. But also, again, I've grown up with unsweetened foods and eating not a lot of sugar. So that's what I'm used to. Now, I have seen, especially with Splenda, the yellow sweetener, there are some carbohydrates in that. It can have a negative effect on your blood sugar. And some of these can also, again, on the physiological or the cellular level of our bodies can sometimes sense these artificial sweeteners and go, oh, that's sweet, I need to make some insulin. Or it also can promote fat storage. So personally, I'm not a fan, but if that's something that you really want, I personally wouldn't use too much, because it can, again, cause GI upset or headaches. But if I am going to have, a little bit of sugar in my coffee, I would do, again, me personally, a tiny bit of sugar or a tiny bit of, regular creamer instead of anything sugar-free. And there's also some plant-based, such as stevia, and I think Truvia are some of those, which, again, to me, it's sweeter than sugar and table sugar. So if you were to use a recipe and go, okay, I just have a cup of sugar, I'll do a cup of stevia, or I'll do a cup of Splenda, it's going to be significantly sweeter than taste sweeter than if you would have just used table sugar. However, the effect on your blood sugars would be different. So it just depends on your taste preferences, depends on how sensitive you are to those. I don't like telling people, oh my goodness, you have to use the sweetener, because I know, how it affects my body. So it's just finding what works best for you. Did that answer it, Ms. Mary?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. And so some other ways that we can manage our diabetes in the best way. It's, staying on top of our medications. Excuse me. Going to the doctor, going to our diabetes educators, coming to support groups, continuing our education so that, even though I have had diabetes, type 1 diabetes for 20 years, there's still so much I need to learn. And there's a lot that I am learning. So we gotta keep learning and keep an open mind. And so if we're taking our medications, whether it's injections or pills, staying on top of those, and then tracking blood sugars is very important. And so if you do a written log, that's really awesome. You can take that again to your diabetes educator or to your doctor's office and say, hey, here's what I have, here's what's been going on. Sometimes if you want to keep a diary for a couple of weeks saying, okay, this is my blood sugar before I eat or when I wake up in the morning, here's how I feel. And, checking it throughout the day, or, finding different times to say, hey, after lunchtime, you may not feel that great. What's my blood sugar? And so you can write down what your blood sugar was, what time you checked it, and how you feel, or how, that blood sugar level made you feel. And then also, I know some of you may have a Libre sensor or a Dexcom. And so using that technology is very helpful to see how your blood sugars are trending. I personally have a Medtronic Guardian. I really like it. I think it's actually got my new one hooked up yesterday, and it's been very helpful, especially during the night, so that I don't have any unexpected low blood sugars. And then again, educating yourselves, coming to these courses like this and learning more about your diabetes from verified sources, because in the age of fake news, you can't always trust everything you find online. So I'm going to give you all some good evidence-based sources that you can go, click around, check it out. Some of these resources I have used most of my life, and they are pretty user-friendly. And so I'll just go ahead and tell you those now, actually. So where I got my outline from, I use the evidence out of these Cornerstones for Care books. You can go online. It's Cornerstones #4care.com. You can order these kinds of booklets. They have an app that you can use on your smartphone to manage your diabetes. I'm going to write it in the chat, actually. And then this other one, it's diabetes.org. It is the American Diabetic Association. It is a .org. That is an organization, different kind of domain. They're facts. It's evidence-based. It's facts. It is facts. I'm all about some facts and some science. You can find recipes. There's a lot of cool different tabs and ways to find support groups, like this one. And if you want to, branch out and meet other people or see what other people are doing, reading articles, it's a very awesome resource. But so let me circle back around real quick to, goal setting. So I love the framework of a SMART goal, which means it's specific, it's attainable. Wait a minute. Measurable. I missed the M. I missed the M on this outline. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So an example that I like to use is I'm going to go on a walk after dinner 3 times a week. It's a very vague goal. It's, hey, I'm going to go walking after dinner 3 times a week. It doesn't tell me how, I don't say how much, but I'll see what I like. And so say after a few weeks, I go, okay, I want to go on a walk for dinner 5 times, like after dinner 5 times a week. And then that turns into twice a day, and that turns into, more activity. So we can build our strength and our stamina, our endurance. But even if you don't have the endurance to go for like a 30-minute walk or, do a long-term amount of exercise, maybe you get up and you walk out to the mailbox, or you walk up and down your driveway. Or maybe like you do a lap around your house, or if you have stairs, go up and down your stairs a couple of times. The point being, small actions add up. Another analogy I love to use is the piggy bank analogy. When we're little, Or if we have I have a coin jar at home that whenever I find loose change, I'll go put it in the coin jar. And after a while you think, oh, it's just pennies, it's just dimes. And then after a while it adds up. And so maybe you thought, oh, whatever, I'm not gonna grab that extra piece of change out of the bottom of my purse. And then, one day you have $50 in change. That's groceries, that's gas. So same thing with exercise and physical activity, and these small actions add up. And even if you don't think it's significant, it's better than nothing. So a little bit is better than nothing. I know, especially recently, it's been harder to get motivated to oh, I did a direct message. I meant to do an everybody message. Sorry, guys. I just noticed that. Here we go. Oh. Sorry, I don't know how to work Zoom sometimes. Tunes for care.com. But again, small actions do add up, and any kind of progress is better than no progress. Does anybody have any questions, or maybe you want to share a goal you'd like to set, or there's something that you're working on, or something you want to give yourself a pat on the back for that you've been working on recently? All right, Ms. Ingrid. So again, that diabetes.org, they do have some really great recipes. They have, recipes for one, things, or for two, small, like how to cook on a small scale. Again, personally, I only know how to cook for an army. I can never cook just one portion. I have to cook a lot of food at one time. But yeah, the diabetes.org is a great site for recipes. I think Cornerstones for Care also has some recipes, but that diabetes.org site, it also has some cool suggestions of, hey, if you have leftover chicken, here's some recipes that you can use that leftover chicken for.
And eating, there's another website is eatingwell.com. And there's a tab for diabetes, and a lot of their recipes come from Diabetes Living. So they're not, some of their recipes on that website are very, they're vegan and they're clean eating and all that. But in the diabetes area, there are some that are directly taken from Diabetes Living, which is a really good magazine that has lots of recipes for people with diabetes. Weight Watchers is another good magazine because they have more portion control. They do use quite a few artificial sweeteners, so you may have to just kind of adjust things. But sometimes they will have recipes in their magazines that you can use with your diabetes as well. So
that answer your question, Ms. Ingrid? Oh, well, I think I might have frozen. Yes, I think we're frozen. All right, and does anybody else have any questions or anything you'd like to add, or maybe tell me something you've learned that you maybe didn't know? Oh, thank you, Miss Martha. I appreciate that. All right.
I'll slide over here too, and thank you all for letting Rachel work with you today. I think she's done a fantastic job, and I'm so excited. She's going to be such a good she is a good dietitian. She just got to get her registration and everything else done when she finishes school. But I do appreciate y'all letting her be part of this group today.
Oh, thank you, Miss Ingrid. Thank you, Miss Vicki. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Thank y'all both for coming.
It looks like your clock is broken.
Yeah. Someone complained about the ticking, so I took the battery.
The battery. You need to put a battery in there.
Yeah. Really broken the battery on, so because I had someone that's like, I can't take ticking, so I had to take the battery out. So We
Well, if
thank you
anybody
all.
wants to
Yes,
start
thank you.
Thank you.
exercising, we have yoga today at 1 o'clock.
There you go. No excuses.
That's right.
Thank you guys.
All
This was
right.
great
Well,
as,
you all
as
have a-
always.
We appreciate it.
Okay, have a fantastic day.
You
You too.
too.
Bye-bye. Good luck,
Bye,
Rachel.
guys.